Bauer's bombshell book, Revenge, Meghan, Harry and the War Between the Windsors, documents Meghan.
Tom Bauer has spent decades making powerful people very uncomfortable, and now his sights are set on Meghan Markle. Hidden inside old archives, he claims to have found clues that quietly contradict her official birthday. Is the official timeline the whole truth? And what do the records really say when you look closely enough? The question that suddenly returned. A storm was brewing in the world of royal commentary, and it had nothing to do with a crown, a throne, or a palace announcement. This time, the debate was about something far more personal. It was about a date, one single date that most people assumed had been settled long ago. The birth date of Meghan Markle, Duchess of Sussex, was suddenly under the microscope again, and the conversation was spreading fast across media platforms, royal commentary channels, and entertainment news outlets around the world. The claims were not coming from an anonymous source or an unreliable online rumor. They were coming from a well-known name in investigative journalism, a man who had built his entire career on asking the uncomfortable questions that others were too cautious to raise. Those claims suggested that certain archived records and older media references may not line up perfectly with the birth year that appears in almost every official profile of the Duchess. It was a small detail on the surface, but in the world of royal biography, small details have a habit of growing into very large conversations. The reaction was immediate. Supporters of Meghan pushed back firmly, calling the claims misleading and unfair. Critics leaned in, pointing to the archive material as evidence worth taking seriously. And somewhere in the middle, millions of curious viewers and readers began asking the same question. Could there really be something to this? Or was this just another round of relentless scrutiny aimed at a woman who had already faced more public examination than almost anyone in modern royal history? What made this particular controversy so difficult to dismiss was the source. This was not tabloid gossip or social media speculation. This was a claim attached to a serious investigation, one built on research, archived records, and years of digging into the kind of personal histories that powerful people often prefer to keep private. But here is the thing that many people overlooked when the story first began to spread. The controversy does not actually start with Meghan at all. It starts with the man making the claims, and to understand why those claims are being taken seriously, it is important to understand exactly who he is, and why the world of royal biography listens when he speaks. Because this is a man with a long track record of uncovering information that others assume was safely buried, and his name alone is enough to make powerful people pay close attention. The biographer, known for digging into powerful lives. Not everyone who writes about powerful people manages to make those powerful people nervous, but Tom Bauer has spent decades doing exactly that. He is widely regarded as one of the most determined investigative biographers working in Britain today, a journalist and author who has built his reputation by going further than most writers are willing to go, asking harder questions, pushing deeper into the archives, and refusing to accept a polished public image at face value. His career stretches back many years, and across that time he has published major biographies on some of the most recognizable names in business, sport, entertainment, and politics. He has examined the life of Robert Maxwell, the controversial media tycoon whose empire collapsed spectacularly after his death. He has explored the world of Muhammad Ali, one of the greatest athletes the world has ever seen. He has investigated Simon Cowell, the entertainment mogul behind some of the biggest television franchises of the modern era. And he has turned his attention to King Charles III, examining the man who would eventually wear the British crown. Each of those projects came with resistance. Powerful subjects rarely welcome deep investigation, and Bauer has faced legal pressure, public criticism, and fierce pushback throughout his career. But he has continued, and his books have consistently found large audiences among readers who want more than the version of events that famous people prefer to tell about themselves. In 2022, Bauer published what became one of his most talked about works. The book was called Revenge, and it focused on the story of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, examining their relationship, their decision to step back from royal duties, and the tensions that had built between them and the wider royal institution. The book was controversial from the moment it was announced. Meghan's team pushed back strongly, and supporters argued that Bauer brought a clear bias to his research. But the book sold widely and sparked enormous debate, and buried within its pages was a section of Meghan's personal biography that began attracting its own specific attention. A set of questions around archived records and older media references that did not appear to sit perfectly alongside the official timeline of her early life. Those questions, once raised, proved difficult to simply set aside, and they eventually found their way back into public conversation, reigniting a debate that many had assumed was already over. We take a closer look at the official timeline itself and examine exactly what the public record says about who Meghan Markle is and where she came from. The official timeline. Everyone knows. Before any debate about inconsistencies can be taken seriously, it helps to understand the official version of events first. The story that appears in biographies, media profiles, and public records paints a clear and consistent picture of who Meghan Markle is and where she came from. It is a story that has been repeated so many times in so many different publications that most people have simply accepted it without question. According to that official record, Meghan Markle was born on August 4, 1981 in Los Angeles, California. She grew up in a household shaped by creativity and ambition. Her mother, Doria Raglan, worked as a social worker and yoga instructor. Her father, Thomas Markle, was a professional lighting director who worked on major television productions throughout his career. From an early age, Meghan was surrounded by the world of entertainment, and that exposure appeared to leave a lasting impression on her. She attended private schools in Los Angeles before going on to study at Northwestern University in Illinois, one of the most respected universities in the United States. According to the official timeline, she graduated in 2003 with a double major in theater and international studies. That combination of academic achievement and creative ambition set the foundation for the career she would go on to build. After graduating, she began the long and often difficult process of establishing herself as a working actor in Hollywood. Early roles were small and scattered, as they are for most performers trying to break through in one of the most competitive industries in the world. She took whatever work she could find, building her experience one role at a time, waiting for the opportunity that would eventually change everything. By this version of events, the timeline is clean and logical, the dates align, the milestones make sense, and the progression from childhood to education to career follows a path that is entirely consistent with her publicly accepted birth year of 1981. There is nothing in the official record, when viewed on its own, that raises any obvious red flags, but Tom Bower did not view the official record on its own. He viewed it alongside something else. He viewed it alongside archive material, older databases, and references from earlier in Meghan's career that he claims do not tell quite the same story. And it is when those two versions are placed next to each other that the questions begin to surface, slowly at first, and then with increasing force. Because the official timeline may be the version everyone knows, but according to Bower, it may not be the only version that exists. The archive entries that raised eyebrows. Investigative biography is not a glamorous process. It involves hours of searching through old records, cross-referencing databases, tracking down archived publications, and paying close attention to the small details that most researchers overlook. It is painstaking, methodical work, and it is exactly the kind of work that Tom Bower built his career on. So when he began digging into the early history of Meghan Markle, he was not simply skimming the surface. He was going deep into the records. What he claims to have found during that process is a set of references that sit uncomfortably alongside the official birth year of 1981. These are not sweeping dramatic revelations. They are small, specific inconsistencies, the kind that would be easy to miss if you were not specifically looking for them. But Bower argues that when you line them up together, they begin to form a pattern that is worth examining seriously. One of the examples that drew attention involved a reference in 17 magazine. The publication, which targets a young female audience and frequently covers entertainment personalities, reportedly listed Meghan at an age that did not appear to align with the birth year she is officially known by. It was a small discrepancy, the kind that could easily be dismissed as a printing error or an editorial mistake. But to Bower, it was one piece of a larger puzzle that he was slowly assembling. Another example involved earlier versions of Meghan's profile on IMDb, the widely used entertainment database that lists credits, biographical details, and career information for actors and industry professionals. According to Bauer's research, older versions of that profile allegedly displayed a different birth year before being updated at some point to reflect the 1981 date that now appears consistently across platforms. Changes to entertainment database entries are not uncommon, but the timing and nature of those alleged changes attracted Bauer's attention. What made these findings significant to Bauer was not any single piece of evidence on its own. It was the combination of them. He argued that when archived references from different sources in different formats across different periods of time all appear to suggest a slightly different picture, it becomes harder to explain each one away as a simple clerical error. Critics were quick to push back, pointing out that databases and magazine archives carry errors regularly, and that inconsistent age listings for actors are far from unusual in the entertainment industry. But Bauer held firm, insisting that the pattern of discrepancies he found during his research deserved more than a casual dismissal. And as it turned out, the entertainment industry itself had a long and well-documented history that would make his next argument far harder to simply wave away. The Hollywood age mystery. Hollywood has always had a complicated relationship with the truth, and nowhere is that more obvious than when it comes to age. For as long as the entertainment industry has existed, performers have faced enormous pressure to present themselves in ways that improve their chances of landing roles, securing contracts, and staying relevant in a business that moves fast and discards people quickly. Age has always been one of the most sensitive details in that equation. The history of the industry is filled with examples of actors who adjusted their listed age at various points in their careers. Some did it to appear younger for certain types of roles. Others did it to seem older when they were trying to be taken more seriously. In some cases, the adjustments were made by agents or management teams without the actor's direct involvement, simply changing a database entry or a press kit detail to better fit a particular narrative. In other cases, the adjustments were deliberate personal decisions made to stay competitive in a fiercely difficult industry. This is the context that Bauer used to frame his argument. He was not suggesting that any potential discrepancy in Meghan's records was unique or shocking by Hollywood standards. He was suggesting that it fit a pattern that the entertainment industry had normalized over many decades. Different birth years appeared in early references to Meghan during her years as a working actress, Bauer argued. The most straightforward explanation might be that those references reflected the kind of adjustments that were commonplace in the world she was operating in. It was a carefully constructed argument, and it was designed to preempt the most obvious counterpoint. Because the moment someone points to inconsistencies in an actor's early records, the immediate response from defenders is almost always the same. Databases make mistakes. Magazines get details wrong. These things happen all the time. Bauer's Hollywood framing was a way of saying that whether or not those were simple mistakes, the environment in which they appeared was one where deliberate changes were also entirely normal. But supporters of Meghan were not persuaded. They argued that using the entertainment industry's general history of age adjustments as a framework for examining one specific person was not evidence of anything. It was speculation dressed up as context. They pointed out that inconsistent entries in early databases and archive publications were genuinely common across the industry, affecting countless performers who had never been accused of anything. The debate reached a stalemate fairly quickly, with both sides firmly planted in their positions. And so, Bauer turned his investigation in a new direction entirely, moving away from databases and magazine archives and focusing instead on the academic records and social connections from Meghan's university years, where he believed another layer of the story was waiting to be examined. The Northwestern timeline puzzle universities leave paper trails. Graduation records, enrollment dates, yearbook entries, alumni directories, social event photographs, and campus publications all combine to create a detailed picture of when someone attended, who they spent time with, and how old they were when they were there. For an investigative biographer like Tom Bauer, a university campus is not just a chapter in someone's life story. It is an archive waiting to be searched. When Bauer turned his attention to Meghan's time at Northwestern University, he was looking for the kind of detail that official biographies tend to smooth over. Northwestern is a prestigious institution located in Evanston, Illinois, and Meghan is said to have studied there between 1999 and 2003, graduating with a double major in theater and international studies. On paper, that timeline fits cleanly with a birth year of 1981, placing her at 18 years old when she first enrolled. But Bauer's investigation did not stop at the enrollment records. He reportedly began looking at photographs from social events connected to the university during that period, examining the people who appeared alongside Meghan in those images, and attempting to build a clearer picture of the social circle she moved in during her student years. What he claims to have found added another layer to the questions he was already asking. Some individuals who appeared in photographs connected to Meghan's university social life reportedly indicated, through various channels, that they had been born earlier than the peers you would typically expect to find, alongside a student who enrolled in 1999 at the age of 18. These were not dramatic revelations, and Bauer was careful not to overstate them, but he argued that they were worth noting as part of a broader pattern of details that, taken together, suggested the timeline might be worth looking at more carefully. The response from Meghan's supporters was swift and logical. University social circles are not closed groups defined purely by age. Students frequently socialize with people from different year groups, different programs, and different backgrounds. A student who enrolled in 1999 could easily have close friends or social connections who were 2, 3, or even 4 years older, without that meaning anything significant about her own birth year. The argument was straightforward, and it was difficult to dismiss. Critics of Bauer also pointed out that drawing conclusions about someone's age based on the approximate birth years of people they appeared in photographs with was a deeply unreliable method of investigation. It was circumstantial at best, and it required a level of assumption that serious investigative journalism would normally treat with great caution. Bauer acknowledged the limitations of this particular thread of research, but maintained that it formed one part of a larger body of observations that all seemed to point in the same direction. And having examined Meghan's academic years, he was not finished yet. His next move was to look even closer to home, turning his attention to the people who knew her longest and most personally of all. Family memories that add another layer. Family is where identity begins. It is where the earliest records are kept, where the clearest memories are formed, and where the most unguarded versions of a person's history tend to surface. For an investigative biographer, family members are often the most valuable and the most complicated source of information available. They know things that no database can tell you, but their memories are shaped by emotion, loyalty, conflict, and time. Tom Bauer understood this well, and when he turned his research toward Meghan's family, he found a set of accounts that he believed added yet another layer to the questions he had already been raising. The most prominent member of Meghan's family to have spoken publicly and repeatedly about her life is her father, Thomas Markle. Over the years since Meghan's relationship with Prince Harry became public, Thomas Markle has given a significant number of media interviews, speaking at length about his daughter's childhood, her upbringing, and the relationship between them. He has been a polarizing figure in that time, praised by some for his candor and criticized by others for speaking publicly about matters that many believe should have remained private. According to Bauer's account, when questions about Meghan's birth year arose during the research process, Thomas Markle reportedly suggested that anyone seeking to confirm the date should consult the official records directly. It was not a denial, and it was not a confirmation of any inconsistency, but Bauer noted that the response felt less definitive than he might have expected from a father who had been so willing to speak openly about almost every other aspect of his daughter's life. Critics argued this was a significant stretch of interpretation, pointing out that redirecting a researcher toward official documentation is a perfectly reasonable and cautious response for anyone to give, regardless of the circumstances. Meghan's half-sister, Samantha Markle, has also spoken extensively in public forums about their shared history and childhood. Samantha, who has been openly critical of Meghan on numerous occasions, has at various points described the age difference between them in ways that some observers felt were slightly inconsistent with the official timeline. These were not precise claims with documented evidence behind them. They were the kind of casual references to family history that emerge in interviews and public statements, and Bauer flagged them as details that added texture to his overall investigation. But here is where the research runs into a fundamental problem that even Bauer's supporters would struggle to argue around. Family recollections, particularly from members of a family defined by conflict, estrangement, and very public disagreement, are among the least reliable forms of evidence available. Samantha Markle has a documented history of making claims about Meghan that have been disputed, challenged, and in some cases directly contradicted by other sources. Thomas Markle's public statements have similarly been inconsistent over time. What Bayor had gathered from the family angle was not evidence in any formal sense. It was atmosphere, suggestion, and inference, gathered from sources whose credibility was already a matter of significant public debate. And so, he moved his investigation forward once more, this time turning to the one area where dates and timelines could be examined against a concrete, publicly documented record. Does her career timeline reveal anything? A career leaves a specific kind of trail. Unlike personal memories, family recollections, or archive magazine entries, a professional career in the entertainment industry is documented in ways that are difficult to alter completely. Screen credits, casting records, contract dates, and broadcast histories all create a timeline that can be examined with a reasonable degree of precision. When Tom Bower turned his attention to Meghan's professional career, he was looking for a timeline that either supported or complicated the birth year he had been questioning throughout his investigation. The broad outline of Meghan's acting career is well established and widely documented. After graduating from Northwestern University in 2003, she began the slow and often frustrating process of building a presence in Hollywood. Early roles were limited and largely unremarkable, as they are for the vast majority of performers trying to establish themselves in one of the world's most competitive industries. She worked consistently, taking whatever opportunities came her way, and gradually accumulated the kind of experience that agents and casting directors eventually begin to take seriously. In 2006, she secured one of her most visible early roles, appearing as a briefcase model on the popular television game show Deal or No Deal. It was not the kind of role that builds a serious acting reputation, but it kept her visible and working during a period when many aspiring actors simply give up. She was 24 years old by the official timeline, an entirely ordinary age for a performer, still working her way up into the lower levels of a very difficult industry. 5 years later, in 2011, everything changed. She was cast as Rachel Zane in the legal drama Suits, a role that would define her public profile for years and eventually lead, indirectly, to the chapter of her life that the entire world would come to know. The Suits casting placed her at 29 years old by the official birth year, again, a completely unremarkable age for an actor landing a significant television role. Bower's argument at this stage of his investigation was not that the career timeline proved anything definitively. He was more measured than that. His suggestion was simply that the timeline was flexible enough to accommodate a slightly earlier birth year without creating any obvious contradictions. A person born a year or two earlier than 1981 would still have followed a career path that looked entirely normal for the industry. The milestones would still make sense. The progression would still be logical. It was a subtle point, and critics argued it proved nothing at all. A timeline that is consistent with one birth year being also consistent with a slightly different birth year is not evidence of anything, they said. It is simply a timeline. And without something more concrete to anchor the claim, the career records ultimately told the same story that the official biography had always told. But the debate was far from over, and the most publicly visible phase of the controversy was still to come. The legal pushback and public debate. When a biography makes claims that touch on the personal history of one of the most closely watched women in the world, the response is rarely quiet. And when that biography is written by Tom Bower, whose reputation for aggressive investigation precedes him everywhere he goes, the response tends to arrive quickly, forcefully, and through multiple channels at once. Following the publication of Revenge, reports emerged that Meghan's legal representatives had examined the book's claims closely and rejected them in firm terms. The position from her side was clear. The allegations were inaccurate, the research methods were questionable, and the overall framing of her life story was shaped more by bias than by genuine investigative rigor. Legal teams do not typically engage publicly with every claim made in a critical biography, but the strength of the response in this case reflected how seriously the matter was being treated. Supporters of Meghan rallied quickly around those same arguments. They pointed to the well-documented reality that entertainment databases carry errors, that magazine archives frequently contain outdated or incorrect biographical details, and that building a significant claim around a handful of inconsistent entries was not the standard of proof that serious journalism should require. They argued that Bauer had taken ordinary archival noise and constructed a narrative around it that was designed to damage rather than inform. On the other side, critics of Meghan found in Bauer's research a framework that confirmed suspicions they had already been carrying. Online commentary spread rapidly, with royal watchers, tabloid followers, and Sussex critics dissecting every detail of the claims and treating the archive discrepancies as meaningful evidence rather than possible errors. What became clear very quickly was that the debate had moved beyond the question of a birth year entirely. It had become another front in the much larger and far more emotionally charged war of opinion that has surrounded Harry and Meghan since they stepped back from royal duties. People were not simply evaluating the evidence on its merits. The claims had taken on a life of their own, and no legal statement or public rebuttal was going to put that particular fire out quickly. Now, what can actually be proven? After all the archived entries, family recollections, career timelines, university photographs, and legal rebuttals, the most important question is the simplest one. What does the actual evidence prove? Not what it suggests, not what it might imply if viewed through a particular lens, but what it concretely and verifiably establishes. And the answer to that question is less dramatic than the debate surrounding it might lead you to expect. No official investigation has ever found documented proof that Meghan Markle misrepresented her age on any legal record, official document, or formal submission of any kind. The birth date of August 4th, 1981, continues to appear in public records, authorized biographies, and official sources without contradiction from any verified authority. Whatever inconsistencies exist in archived magazine entries or old database profiles, they have not been supported by the kind of primary documentation that would be required to substantiate a serious claim. What Tom Bauer produced was a collection of observations, a pattern of small discrepancies drawn from sources that carry varying degrees of reliability, assembled into an argument that raises questions without definitively answering them. That is not nothing. Investigative biography frequently works in exactly that space, pointing toward possibilities and inconsistencies that official records do not acknowledge. But it is also not proof, and it is important to be clear about the difference between the two. Meghan Markle remains one of the most written about, most analyzed, and most debated figures in the modern public landscape. And as long as that remains true, questions about her past, her identity, and the details of her personal history will continue to surface, circulate, and divide opinion sharply. The birth year debate may have quietened for now, but in the world that surrounds the Duchess of Sussex, nothing ever stays quiet for very long.